memory. So this next story is called The Candy Bars. Back when Hershey milk chocolate candy bars could be purchased in a bag with multiple candy bars inside, maybe a dozen, Grandpa and Grandma kept these candy bars on the shelf in the refrigerator right as the door was opened, and it was a treat to have some squares of chocolate while at their house.
2. We got 2. Right?
Okay.
Seems like it's have a big bags.
So in the evenings, Larry and I, this would be Larry and Linda, accompanied Grandpa on his cattle feeding routine and learned the way he liked to put out the hay in the troughs where the meal, this kind of brown looking powder meal, assume it was cottonseed meal,
Right? Is that what you would think it was?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
was stored and how many cans of it to add on top of the hay, etc. Then, when he spent several days in the hospital, Larry and I did the feeding for him each evening. It was exciting to have that responsibility, and we were eager to do everything just right for Grandpa, like he had taught us, with the correct quantity of feed, being sure to close all the gates and latch the feed bin door, etc. Well, when he came home from the hospital after several days, he surprised Larry and I with what?
Chocolate.
An entire bag of Hershey's milk chocolate candy bars for each of us. What an unexpected and exciting gift. So that was the candy bars. Here's a very interesting one. Don't lie. One day Larry and I, maybe Danny, that's me, too, were in the house with Grandma when the Avon lady came. Anybody know what the Avon lady is?
Aaron, really, you don't?
No?
Oh my.
This would be like traveling salesmen coming around trying to sell stuff, so they would make house calls. Maybe selling Avon, maybe selling Mary Kay before she existed. Maybe encyclopedias.
Full of brush.
Vacuums.
Yeah. Kirby vacuum cleaner.
So the Avon lady came, so she drove up here to the house. Grandma must have noticed her driving up. That would have been Emma. And she ushered us out of the living room to behind the door in the dining room so we could all hide. This is Grandma and 2 or 3 kids hiding from a lady that just showed up at the house. So it would appear as if no one was home, and she wouldn't have to deal with the Avon lady. Wouldn't have to listen to the sales
And say I don't
spiel.
want anything. You feel bad about not buying something, you know.
Yeah.
So it's easier just to not be home.
Well, evidently, Rudolph, Grandpa, who was outside, also saw her arrive and must have figured out what was going on since the Avon lady wasn't coming in the house. She must have just been standing at the door. It's like, I know my people are in the house, but she's not able to get in.
Did you put about 3 of those wheat?
And she wasn't coming inside. He strode in the back door, marched right past us, opened the front door, and invited the Avon lady right in. And he said something sternly to us and Grandma about not to lie as he went by. This was a vivid lesson of the commandment. Don't lie. Interesting.
So, did they buy anything?
Well, I couldn't say no after that.
You were in shock after that.
And no,
Next
that's
one.
right.
Next one is 20 times. Grandma and Grandpa had matching white recliners with a TV tray in between them in the living room. So these were like against this wall over here, one facing that away, TV tray, and then another one facing here was our TV that they actually
Watch
faced.
the TV, yeah.
Well, after dinner, lunch, the noon meal, Grandpa would sit in his recliner, take his Bible from the TV tray, and read in it. And once this is Linda commented about what a thick book it was, and then she asked, "Have you ever read it all?" And he replied, "Yes." I was amazed. And when he then added about 20 times, I was really stunned, as that seemed so difficult to do even once. So after his daily Bible reading time, we would head home come down here so Grandpa could take an afternoon nap. We would then be ready to return later for more time following him around.
You probably need a break from us and y'all go home. I gotta take a nap.
Y'all go home.
Y'all go take a break. So that was the 20 times, and then we continue on with some other ones. Rock hauling. Y'all seen all these rocks down here around the tank? And the other ones, I think Rudolph hauled most of those, is that right? Rock hauling was another regular chore, sometimes using a small wooden trailer pulled behind the Ferguson tractor, or by loading the rocks on a wooden platform on the back of the tractor. Coming upon a large flat rock too heavy to be loaded was an anticipated find in the field. So sometimes you'd come along this big one and it's obvious you couldn't pick it up. Hopefully it was flat, hopefully it was thin. Usually you had to flip it over. Sometimes you might find mice, hopefully not a snake, when you flipped it over. But you'd flip it over and then you would take a sledgehammer to it to try to get it into some smaller chunks.
Why would you flip it over before you broke it up?
Because it's kind of settled in the ground.
Probably gonna break up.
If you flip it over, then it's kind of looser and it breaks a little bit easier.
And
Seems
why,
like.
why would you have not gotten that rock the previous year?
That's what was always hard to figure out. How did
Like
that
they're
suddenly
always
appear?
surfacing.
They just gotta come
They
up.
grow rocks.
Is that a rock field or a wheat field?
You set them up in the next year?
Who planted rocks last year?
So that would be an interesting find in the field, as it would be smashed with a sledgehammer, and often mice were underneath that could be chased or fired upon by the small rocks we threw at them as they scattered.
Nope, that's how the rocks kept getting back out there.
You're sewing them.
Just get a giant rock.
So Grandpa usually drove the tractor and we walked alongside picking up the rocks. And when the load was full, we piled on top of the ride to the rock pile to unload. Lots of praying can be done during the long, hot, tired, and thirsty times out in the field.
So, did you mention it was the Ferguson?
Yes.
Okay. So we're sitting on top of the rocks piled up on the back of this trailer, bebopping back to the.
Seems like it.
Hopefully
That's
they
gotta be-
don't shift and catch a
that's gotta be
finger or an
safe.
ankle or something. Anytime Grandpa needed to retrieve some tool, find some nails, or fix something, we were always excited to go to his shop. Is this the little blacksmith shop?
That's about to collapse up there. It's leaning like this right now.
Here it is. In our opinion, the best time in the I was just telling Mary this yesterday. In our opinion, the best time in the shop was the hand
It's a
crank.
timer thing.
Best item, excuse me.
Okay.
Kind of looks like time. The best item in the shop was the hand crank grinder. So on his bench, you kind of had this hand crank grinder, had a little wheel on it. And what could you do with it?
Make
right there.
sparks.
Here it is. We could spend countless time taking turns seeing how fast we could get the grinding wheel spinning, and also watching how many and how far the sparks would fly when we held a piece of metal against a rapidly turning wheel. So you get that thing cranked up, throw a bar of steel in there, and you'll throw
Just like
sparks
those
out.
sparklers that at a wedding, those things.
Just like them.
Just like them.
Just
Daniel.
like 'em.
Now, did you mention I remember that billow thing. And
Yeah.
I guess I never mess with it
charcoal
much.
that-
I do too, Barbara.
He
Up
had
there.
the coal for
Did we
iron.
ever find that?
Okay, so that was about the shop. Okay, now we go to another big paragraph here. Chickens. Grandpa raised chickens, and sometimes we help gather the eggs from the chicken house. That's the house that's still up there. During the day, the chickens roamed outside. I don't remember them being outside. Chickens roamed outside, and one rooster kept us alert, as he would sometimes chase anyone who came too close. Grandpa stored the eggs in the cool tank house. So that rock thing that's kind of elevated with a tank that's next to the elevator, that's the tank house, and underneath it was like it was always cool, and that's where he stored the eggs.
Do we need to turn that light on so he can see?
No, I'm just trying to find myself. A piece of cardboard was hanging in the tank house along with a pencil tied by a string. So when we needed the eggs, one of us children would be sent up the hill from here, sent up the hill, pick up the eggs, and to note how many dozen we were taking on the cardboard tally sheet. So it was just little tick marks, or was it?
Keep going.
Okay. The tally sheet. When we returned home, the first question was always, did you mark them down? And at the end of the month, or periodically, Daddy, that was Harold, would take his checkbook and join Grandpa in the tank house to settle up.
Wow, no freebies.
I can remember them kind of arguing, almost like Grandpa wanted them to be free, but Daddy was like, "Nope, I'm writing you a check."
Is that right?
Just my perception. That might not be right. How does that sound?
I don't remember.
Because I can remember them kind of clashing a little bit about it being up there, but I didn't put that because I don't know for sure.
This may be this is Linda, where Linda first learned the method of tracking quantity using 4 vertical lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then what do? You do a diagonal to make the 5. 4 vertical lines and a 5th diagonal slash across them for each 5 being counted. So that's the eggs. Grandpa's barns were so nice, it was possible to put out hay and feed for the cows from above or behind the troughs without being down in the lot with the cows. Then the cows would come in the lot from the other side. So you can still do that pretty much today.
I heard y'all got those all repaired and fixed up.
I
Very
don't know
nice.
about all of them. We
Super.
made an attempt. Okay, another one here, another paragraph. We like to play with the small waterer at the lot fence where the cows could push down with their noses on a slotted metal plate that operated as a float, causing water to flow into the bowl for them to drink. Once it was full and the water was running over, we had to quit.
Noise.
So it's like a float, you push down and
Just in a little thing, just big enough for their nose to
I
fit
thought
down
that was
in.
for the hogs. I
Yeah,
didn't realize
right
that
out
was-
here, there's still one that's in the, inside the
smart
barn and
cow.
on the outside.
They work out. You train them. That's right.
Okay, next
They
one
roll
here
over
is
too.
First person put to sleep.
Dramatic reading.
the years Grandpa had a cow for milking. After the first time we had a taste of their milk from the refrigerator. Okay, the years Grandpa had a cow for milking. After the first time we had a taste of their milk from the refrigerator, we declined it if we were offered the glass of milk. He strained it, then kept the pan of milk in the refrigerator like that to drink. It tasted quite different to us since we pasteurized the milk from our cows.
You remember that? It was just like in that metal pan.
Raw milk.
Ellis.
Just strain, that was it.
Well, they used to take it and drink it, but it still had the foam on it.
Ellis.
Scott's a little
He can't
nauseous over
find
there.
you. Here's the voice, Josh.
Okay,
Say,
next
where-
topic. Grandpa's garden had a bumper crop of tomatoes one year, and he was trying to come up with additional methods of preservation. And by this time, they must have been purchasing milk as he froze whole tomatoes in the gallon-sized square cardboard cartons that milk used to come in. We just loaded them in there and froze them?
Yeah. He didn't really. Didn't
No blanching or anything.
No, 'cause he,
Okay, next one is, one time Grandpa called us up to his cattle guard. This had been up along the road where there was a cattle guard. At a small puddle of water remaining after a recent rain was an animal we had never seen before. It had orange teeth, orange front teeth, and resembled a beaver. He told us it was a nutria. I remember that.
Good.
First one. That's page 2.
Uh-oh.
Page 3. This was another day. Another day there was a dead possum, with babies clinging to it between the house and the windmill that we looked at with Grandpa. I think Grandpa said he hit it with something, and it appeared he had killed it. He told us that when he went back to it later, it was gone. It must have been playing possum.
You got one.
Another day. One day Larry and I heard talk of a cow about to have a calf, so we were looking forward to watching this event. Then Grandpa mentioned something about maybe having to pull the calf. And he sent us home with quotation, "Your mama probably wouldn't want you to see this." We were reluctant to leave, but headed on down the hill. But other times, Larry and I stood on the boards of the back lot fence on the outside, leaning over the top board to observe Grandpa with his pocket knife method of calf castrating, followed by the application of blue bottle antiseptic.
Did you see any of that?
No, I didn't. Oh,
Did you finish about, or is it still coming about how he treated that cow?
It's coming.
Okay.
okay, here it's coming. One of the more unusual events revolved around a cow that was down in the hog pasture and couldn't get up. After the vet came out and the cow was no better, probably usual, low on magnesium diagnosis. So there was this veterinarian in Valley Mills, Toodler, right?
Toodler offered.
Anytime there was something wrong with something, he said, well, it's probably low on calcium or low on magnesium. Grandpa read in an old book of his and proceeded with treatment. He drove his pickup up near her, used a quill from a chicken feather.
You know what a quill is?
Yeah, the hard part.
Yeah. Used a quill from a chicken feather and inserted it into a teat. This is on the cow.
Keep it ring, Daddy.
He repeated this with all 4 teats until her udder was
Wait, you didn't
full.
read the part about how you can air up something with the
Oh,
finger.
excuse me.
Getting flustered.
I just came back. I looked up. I lost my spot. I'll use my fingers.
Back in those days.
He used a quill from a chicken feather and inserted it into a teat, and then aired it up by using his pickup.
You drink.
It's like an air mattress last night.
I don't know how it works, but on vehicles in those days, you could air up a tire by connecting to something under the hood and tied off the teat. So aired it up, and I guess tied it off, and it held the air.
Yeah.
He repeated that on all 4 teats until her udder was full of air.
Tied it off.
Just like with a little piece of
Put a string
fabric
around it or
string
something.
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking it used it to tie
Also, a sling, like probably a strap, was rigged underneath the cow, hung over a tree, which just happened to be there, hung over a tree to help lift her up to a standing position. And guess what? After a few days, she was fine.
Well, after that treatment, you'd want to be fine.
I better get on up.
We thought it was so neat that Grandpa was able to help the cow recover.
Never said the
Something about
air.
milk fever. I think that's what he diagnosed it
I
as.
don't see
I
that.
might need to put that in milk fever.
Wow.
That's what I remember it being called. But
How would he blow it up? Like with a quill?
Had the quill.
you had to have a way to get air in there, and so the quill was just, and then maybe you
Like
took
a
the
needle,
hose
like a
from underneath the
basketball
hood.
needle.
What happened to the
Just
air in
like,
the
just
udder?
like blowing up that
It
tube
just like-
last night. You have to have something to insert it in.
Scott looks a little. Ugh.
What happened to the udder? Did the air just like?
No, it stayed tied up for a while.
That is utterly unbelievable.
Utterly amazing.
You don't remember that?
I do not remember that.
Mama did, so I was glad somebody else remembered
Really?
it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think it was that tree line right
Yeah,
out here.
just right out there.
There used to be a tree line here. This used to be a peach orchard out here. Oh, and then that was considered the hog pasture. We had.
He's
when
proofreading
we
them now,
first
so
got
if he
married,
wants
we
to
had
do anything. I
50
think that's
or
the
60
wild
hogs
stuff.
out there.
Okay, here's another topic. It seems that we tagged along during the day as much as possible, generating various fun memories such as buzzing up the hill from Hog Creek on our way back home in his old green pickup. It seemed so loud as if it was really hard for the pickup to make it up that hill, and it was so loud that we couldn't hear each other talk. Going along with Grandpa for feeding cows, opening gates, riding in the old green pickup, picking peaches, picking up pecans, putting potatoes under the house, or whatever he was working on was such fun. Next, the door to the upstairs in their house was outside on the back porch by the kitchen, and occasionally we would go up and see stored furniture and other unused items. It was fun to look around and see the various objects. A favorite was the fainting couch.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of like a straight couch with a rolled up thing on one end, no sides or arms on it or anything.
Like a psychiatrist's chair.
The
There you go.
remains it's still out there.
Yeah, I've seen that before. It's out in the barn, right?
Cut the oven off.
Okay, here's another one. There was a graveled area under the roof by the kitchen back porch where Grandpa parked his pickup. But they kept their blue car with the rounded white top in the garage building that was out near the shop.
You know who they call it?
Not exactly. They would drive it to church where we would see them sitting on the opposite sides of the aisles from us. Opposite side of the aisle from us.
Well, they sat together, but not.
Yeah.
They sat over here and we
Yeah,
stood.
I thought they were splitting the aisle.
They were sitting on opposite sides.
How
Next.
come we didn't sit with them?
I don't know. They just always sat on that side and we sat on this side.
Juicy fruit tasted better on our side?
Uncle Ed Meyer. Uncle Ed was Grandma's brother. He would usually come down from Dallas for a visit each year. One time he came out to join us where Grandpa and Daddy were building the fence behind the barn at our house. The auger was mounted on the back of the Ferguson, and Grandpa was operating it, digging the holes while Daddy was installing the cedar posts. Uncle Ed wasn't accustomed to outside work, so after a while, he seemed to be ready to head back to the house, and then soon after, he was loading up to head on back to Dallas. Grandpa and Daddy seemed to have a little chuckle about the day, and the fact that Uncle Ed, who worked in an office all day, was no longer used to outside physical labor.
I have a little side story about that.
Go for it.
Remember that?
Is that the one that lived in Oakville?
No.
No?
He lived
That's
about on
Henry
South
Meyer.
Side.
It's
South
same
Side.
family. It's okay.
That's his brother.
Okay. So, shortly after Barbara and I were married, Irene and Harold were up at visiting us, and for some reason we were going to go, Harold and I were going to go to the grocery store. And so we're driving down Colorado, and he says, turn off right here. Turn right here. He said, my uncle used to live in that house right there. He said, I remember coming out here to go to the state fair, and at night we'd sit up on that flat, there was like a,
Balcony kind of.
yeah,
Like a
we'd sit up on that
carport,
balcony
portico.
at night.
Uncle Albert, yeah.
Turns out the owners of that house now, we know them and they go to our church.
That's
Christy and
funny.
Dan Resby were sitting in church one day talking, and we asked about that house because we knew they'd moved in, and asked if they knew the previous owners, and that name didn't come up on their conversation. So, small
Did it
world.
come up?
Yeah, they knew.
Wow. Let's see. We have a special heading here on the next one. I'll make you hot. This is not something I experienced, but have been told about it, and it is a favorite story our grandchildren like to hear, so I'm including it. Grandpa would never curse. So if his mules wouldn't do what he wanted, he wouldn't say any curse words to them, but would say, I'll make you hot. I'll make you hot. When I tell the story, I add a Rain's handshaking whip motion with my hand. Not sure if that occurred, but it does add more excitement to the story.
But he probably did pop him with that rain.
I can tell that story, and then we're still saying, tell that story, I'll make you hot. I'll tell it again, and she'll go, tell that story, I'll make
Is
you.
that
I mean,
right?
you could just go for 20 times. She'll just-
Grandpa used to like to watch wrestling on Saturday nights. He was a slim man. This is not the wrestler, this is Grandpa. Grandpa was a slim man with lean, sinewy arms. We thought his round up balls of a bicep muscles looked so strong. And during the writing of this, Mama related that Daddy had said that Grandpa was very strong for his size and build.
Do you remember that? It was just kind of like a little ball sitting up there. Small
Really?
down in his arms.
You know, haul that many rocks, you'd have arms that look like that.
Let me feel that. Ah, she must have.
When we look at pictures, sorry,
I'm gonna say, this is where y'all insert the story about Harold and Josh and Jared.
The fish.
The fish.
About what? About Daddy felt of Jared's arm when we were down there building the fence. So you figure might when he does that. Feels like a small fish.
when we would look at pictures of Grandpa and Grandma when they were young, maybe their wedding photo, Daddy would comment that Grandpa with his thick dark hair resembled Robert Conrad, the actor. Hadn't heard that. Grandma enjoyed seeing Jack LaLanne weekday mornings on television, and sometimes we would try to follow along on the exercises. Y'all want to explain who Jack LaLanne is?
Just like lived me. Isn't he still alive? He like
I think he died here recently.
95 or something and would just do all kind of stretches and exercise.
In a jumpsuit.
Yeah, black.
And probably one of the first to kind of go on TV with that sort of thing. So
Promoting exercise as a
Yeah.
healthy
he was
lifestyle.
probably ahead of his time.
Oh, they didn't have aerobics.
Hey.
Some people had not
You sure is.
Right.
Kitty paddle.
invented that. That wasn't until the 70s.
Hey, big boy. Oh, hey, big boy.
Okay, we have another topic here. Every summer, the girl grandchildren, who were they?
Sharon, Linda,
There you
Shirley. I don't know. Did y'all get to go when
Is
y'all
this where we have the
One more
sleepover?
in
to
there.
spend the night?
Yeah. I
Okay,
think we
Barbara and
sometimes spend the
Denise,
night,
and I
sometimes
don't
we
guess
check it out.
Laurie ever did. Okay.
Every summer, the girl grandchildren would spend one night with Grandpa and Grandma, and the boys would spend another night. We would eat supper, take a bath at home, pack our pajamas, and head up for a fun night. So you'd eat supper here,
Yes.
bathe here, pack your PJs, go there.
Hey, that reminds me of a story I got to tell you, Barbara. You know how it's fun to sometimes sleep in your clothes? The other day we were with Emerson and she had on these little tights like she can wear. She told us, if I wear these at night, they're pajamas. If I wear them in the day, they're not pajamas. I gotta tell Barbara that.
Yeah.
Folks about
So that's all you have to do is just say that.
5 out of 7 days a week.
That's down on the laundry.
Page 4. A regular game was Queen for a Day, as we copied a daytime television show Grandma liked. We laughed as we made up extravagant sob stories, hoping to be the one chosen to receive the Queen for a Day crown and robe. Side note, I'm sure Grandma made sure the title was passed around so that each of us had a turn to win. The scrambled eggs she prepared for breakfast the next morning were so tasty. Grandpa ate his with toast that he dipped in a small pool of K-Rose syrup. Anybody know what K-Rose syrup is?
My dad used to eat with molasses.
Used to get it in a tin can.
That's what I said right there. He poured his from a
Poured from a
can.
metal can on his plate. K-Rose syrup's that white syrup.
No, this was the dark
There
K-Rose.
can be
really?
a dark.
Red.
Oh,
It
you
can be
said-
white or dark.
Okay,
and
my
white.
bad. I
Either
thought it was
one.
only like the clear.
Either one.
Same, yeah.
You get darker, all right.
Tastes like hand sanitizer.
That's funny.
Next, on Christmas Day, after church in the morning and dinner at home, we would go to their house for the afternoon. One year, Grandpa gave Grandma a Polaroid camera. It was interesting learning about this new type photo and how it could develop in a matter of seconds.
You remember that smell? That gel or whatever you had to roll across? It
Yeah,
had
you
a
had to
smell.
rub it after it came out, had to put something on top
Tell
of
him
it.
that, Joshua.
I have that camera.
Got a sad story?
Yes.
It's just Josh with a little disposable camera. One time we were going to a wedding and I forgot my camera, so we just stopped picking one up. And Josh wanted to look at it and see how it worked, and he was just, I wonder how it works. I want to take it apart. Finally, he just handed me and said, I just can't have it back there. I'll just take it apart.
Yeah.
Pass it off.
Oh, he's cute.
Another Christmas, when the Bartles family was not able to come at the same time, I received a hairbrush, and Grandma made sure to tell me that Sharon and I received the same gift.
Or kind of like spent the same amount or something, you know, she
All
was.
fair.
Even Steven, baby. Another year at Christmas, Grandma and Grandpa gave me a little light-up white church with red roof, stained glass windows,
Oh, yeah.
and a bell in the spire. An old-fashioned large Christmas light bulb inside illuminates the church and shines through the windows. We still put the church out every year.
I didn't realize that's where it came from. Neat.
The plastic bottom that holds the bulb must be removed to replace the bulb. Over the years, the bottom has become cracked and brittle, so we don't leave it plugged in very long so the bulb lasts and needs changing less often.
True German way.
So how old would it be now?
Oh, I guess 50 years old, probably. I was probably
Wow.
10 or something. Wouldn't you guess, Mama?
That's cool. I didn't know that. That's where it came from.
Page 5.
These are
Very
great,
good.
man. There's some good writing.
A lot of it. Grandma often asked me to play hymns for her on the pump organ. That was great fun. Keeping the sound going with 2 foot pedals while reading the music and keeping fingers on the right keys took a little practice at first. If your feet slowed down too much, the sound would become faint. And it was interesting hearing the different tones that could be achieved by pulling out various combinations of the many stops
Stops are these little buttons up here. It had a whole row of little buttons up here.
above the keys.
Uh-huh. You had to pull out some.
Certain stops on the organ had to be pulled out, or no sound could be heard at all. Her favorite hymn was "What a Friend We Have in Jesus," so it was played every time. Is that organ still around somewhere?
Sure.
Sharon has it.
In her house?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, all fixed up, looks nice. I mean, it doesn't operate, but it's just real pretty.
I see. You want to explain how the pumps work, the pedals?
You have 2, you gotta be going like this with your feet and it sends air through there.
Diaper?
Diaper.
Excuse me?
I didn't make it work.
I think something with the air
what
pumping
he
going
said?
through
Did
it.
he
She
say
checked
diaper?
on having it done. It's gonna be
Diaper?
pretty expensive and she doesn't really play
What are these
piano or anything
crystal
anyway,
words?
so she just has it for a piece of
pretty.
furniture.
One day on the way to the dentist, we first stopped by to see if she needed anything from Clifton, and she told me she'd be praying for me. I must have been having a tooth pulled that day. I recall it as one of the more pleasant dentist visits due to her prayers for me.
Gee.
Any
I
idea
guess
how old
we
you
didn't-
were?
We must have just had curses when we went. That was bad. TC, pull a tooth.
Oh, no.
She received pleasure from exchanging letters and postcards, and she would be smiling as she read them to me. Sometimes, like maybe some were from cousins. Does the name Annie Wolf sound right? Sometimes she asked me to read the postcards, but I couldn't always discern their handwriting enough. Grandma had a new upright Hoover brand of vacuum when we were a little older. If she needed help with a rug, when we were there, she would ask, "Could you hoover this rug?" That may have been her first vacuum, hence the terminology she used. It's funny how the terms change because nowadays it's just vacuum the rug.
She'd always say hoover it. Not
My
vacuum
granddad
it.
Really?
used to say that.
It's kind of like Google it. Like this,
Yeah.
this brand.
Or like I want some Kleenex.
Yeah,
Not
Yeah.
just
use the brand name.
One hot summer when all 7 of us passed around the mumps, Grandma brought us a pot of soup to avoid coming in the house and possibly catching the mumps, but still to be able to talk to us. She came around to the bedroom window and shared her get well wishes from the front yard through the screen.
So who had the mumps? 7
All of us.
All, like there 4 and us 5?
I don't think I had them.
Oh, okay.
Oh, the
Good.
7 of us, not the cousins. I see what you're talking
Oh,
about.
just us. I thought all of us had them.
I
Okay.
don't believe it. I had them.
Wow, what a white
I
top.
did. I don't remember it.
Next, we've seen the photos of Daddy appearing as a malnutrition baby and heard the account of his chances of surviving
Pyloric stenosis.
pyloric stenosis as being 1 in 100,000. Also, Bertina has told how Grandma set a place for Daddy at the supper table every night while he was in Korea. He has said that he felt like he had 3 lives with being able to survive those 2 incidents. This is a side note. He has said that in his unit in Korea, in effect, had a complete turnover due to all the soldiers killed. The faith and prayers of a mother! Exclamation mark. While Daddy was overseas, he sent back a set of china for Grandma.
You're gonna jerk the tears, Linda.
Over the years,
Listen now.
she would show it to me and tell me she would give it to me someday, which she did when I graduated from high school. That is the china we have today. It has a delicate and pretty pink and purple, small, flowery, trailing pattern. Didn't know that. How big is the set?
It's everything.
Like
You got the plates, the
12?
oh yeah, and you got big plates, this, that, kind of sauce, and serving dishes.
Same time, mine's in the China cabinet.
works.
How many times?
Did you get a clean diaper?
Diaper.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Yeah, Pop's got your crackers.
Crackers.
Last and final, page 6. One time when I went up to the back door at the kitchen to visit Grandma not too long after Grandpa's funeral, she seemed surprised when she opened the door and saw me standing there. She said it seemed like it was going to be Grandpa. In the later years, after Grandpa was gone, when Grandpa stayed in the house more,
Grandma stayed in the house more.
when Grandma stayed in the house more, Mama would often notice when the mail carrier came and would send one of us up to walk up to Grandma's mailbox to get her mail and take it to her at her house.
Did you get in on that?
I remember also, like, okay, are we going to get a nickel? We're going to get a dime?
Oh, I
We're
don't
going to get a
remember
quarter?
getting
Maybe a
anything.
little payment for the volunteer
I
service.
didn't never get any.
Strictly volunteer.
Yeah.
It's a business.
When Barbara was young, Larry and Danny had been fishing and brought their catch up to the concrete water trough by the windmill to keep the fish there a bit. Barbara was walking on the few-inch wide top of the trough and fell in. Grandma hurried off to the house and quickly returned with a pink towel for Barbara.
I didn't write any more because so if you were writing anything, you could elaborate on it.
I just remember y'all saying, y'all had asked me, did y'all see any fish? And I was like,
Yeah, they
yes,
did. Your little flip-flops were floating and your feet were up and Mama just like jerked you out like that and you had braids and ooh, all that mossy stuff in your braids.
I remember that, the hair was a yuck.
Laurie didn't have too much time with Grandpa since he passed away the same year she was born, but I do remember him holding her on his lap when she was just a few months old and bouncing her on his knees. The final time Grandpa was in the hospital, we'd gone to visit him one night. One night later, Larry was insistent that we should go see him again. But since we had just seen him the day before, and with the various activities we had going on, we didn't go to Clifton for another visit. The next day he passed on, and we didn't get to see him that additional time. Larry always remembers that he really wanted to go see him that night, but we didn't get to. We sure missed him. And this is the last and final paragraph. The week of Grandpa's passing and funeral, we were disappointed that we didn't get to go to the Turnersville football game on Friday night. So Larry and I stretched out our pillows across the gap from the inside of the bed to the open window, sill to the west. Looking out that way, I suppose. While lying on our pillows with elbows on the windowsill, we talked and watched the Turnersville football field lights until they went out.
Oh my!
Action packed.
Once we knew the game was over,
Dedication.
we decided we might as well go on to sleep.
Oh wow! What Buffalo fan!
That's
Man.
dedication right there.
Great job, Linda.